There are a lot of things taking place in the UK right now. European elections, but also Brexit. Brexit is somewhat coming to a head, at least for one particular prime minister that is, believe it or not, clinging with grim determination to power and still not leaving that office. Let's talk about Theresa May coming up next. So, as I drove on default lines today, I was on the road all day, so I wasn't necessarily sure if I was going to be doing videos. And I listened to news, sometimes music, but in this point I was kind of in a mood for news. And so the entire way I was listening to news and documentaries and that type of stuff. And the subject of Theresa May came up. Now, I was fascinated by this. Everybody has been calling for Theresa May to leave. It is cacophony in the press. Leave. All of them are just literally at this point just talking about when is she going to leave? Theresa May's going to leave. She's going to leave at some point. That's all the talk. That's all you hear about. And Theresa May is still there. She is still there. Now, as you remember, Theresa May comes out, gives a speech. In that speech, she makes this kind of 10-point plan. Problem, her cabinet had not approved of some of the elements of that plan. Tis. Now, in not approving some of the elements of that plan, she bumps heads with her cabinet. Her cabinet is dramatically unhappy. Leadsom, I think that's how you pronounce, let me make sure I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Leadsom, I believe. Resign, Annette Leadsom. Andrea Leadsom, yes. Outright resigned. And put this letter on Twitter essentially saying, I don't necessarily believe this prime minister could deliver Brexit. And yet she hung on. And you must understand, this wasn't like a random person. She was leader of the House of Commons. She was a big deal. And people thought that this was going to be the last shoe to drop. She had to leave after this. There's no way she can stay after this. And she stays nonetheless. Whatever you want to think of her, oh my God, that woman can get hit in the face and stay. I don't know if that's a good trait for a woman or not, but she has it. That's it. It's amazing. She's still there. Now, she was supposed to give this vote, meaning she was supposed to give this withdrawal bill. As Theresa May was out there screaming on how, wonderful the future is going to be, her party abandoned her. They heard that speech and abandoned her. That speech was dead on arrival, less than dead on arrival, if there was such a thing. And at that point it was, you just need to leave. You just need to go. Just go. They were flabbergasted. It is hard to get across how bad that speech went over. Because it wasn't enough for Labour. And I'm going to let you hear Jeremy Corbyn give the stinging rebuke of Theresa May in this case. This opening broadside that Lee cut loose in Parliament. It is vicious. It is utterly vicious. And part because it's true. It's true. And it's kind of the problem with this particular situation. But her bill is postponed. Remember, this was supposed to be this thing of, all right, Theresa May is going to put this bill out, and whether she, wins or lose, she was supposed to, at the very least, give out when she's going to resign. That was what was supposed to happen. That was the explained way of taking place. And she was going to get her vote on Thursday, today. She was going to have her vote today. And that vote, just like many of the other votes that we were told were going to take place on particular days, were postponed. It is postponed until June. Oh, the indignity. This hurts. This had to burn. Do you know how much that had to burn? Like, if I fuck up on my channel, I feel like an asshole. I don't necessarily like to fuck up. It's what it is. It's to be human to some degree. I would imagine some people don't care. I don't necessarily know how they function in that way, but so be it. Most of us care. To do that on a grand scale, when you're the prime minister of a country and you are failing at the height of your lungs, and everybody in the country, cacophony of noise, are screaming, just go. And almost in this utter defiance, it's just because of how much they want you to go, you say, no, I'm staying. Theresa May, and I'm staying. That's literally what is taking place. I'm fascinated by that. So her vote is literally going to be postponed to June. The second reading, Friday, 7th of June. That's amazing. That's amazing. Listen to this. Corbyn goes after her. Now, the BBC put a woman who's doing sign language. This is massively distracting. And this is, real lefty, so fair enough. But it's somewhat distracting. I thought about doing this video just kind of with Corbyn's face on it, but I want to show it. It's not that she's bad or anything. That's not what it is. She's very expressive. And my wife kind of made this point like, well, she's supposed to be expressive. She's supposed to get across the emotion of what's taking place. Which makes this kind of more awesome. Corbyn in this is getting really worked up. Like, he's getting really hyped up. He's beasting out on this point. I was like, oh my God, Jeremy Corbyn is going to rip his shirt off. Ah! You're horrible for Brexit. We have a general election. But he makes a point here that I heard, it was a French news show, Deride. It's like, ooh la la. Don't you hate when Corbyn does that? But he's the British guy who he had on kind of made this point to him. You may not like what he said there, but doesn't he have a perfect point? Doesn't he have a point? I'm going to let him say it before we talk about it. So I'll let Corbyn do his thing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Prime Minister for an advance copy of this statement. In fact, I received it yesterday when the Prime Minister made an appeal entitled Seeking Common Ground in Parliament. And where did she make that appeal? Not in Parliament, but in a small room just down the road. Mr. Speaker, it's now clear the bold New Deal the Prime Minister promised is little more than a repackaged version of her 3 times rejected deal. The rhetoric may have changed, but the deal has not. I thank the Prime Minister for her letter. It offers no change on a customs union, no change on single market alignment, and no dynamic alignment on environmental protections. This government is too...
By the way, I'm going to rewind this slightly, but the issue that they balked over was this notion of a second referendum. These guys are hardcore Brexiteers. How can they sign up for a second referendum? It's almost ideological at this point. That was a red line, and apparently that was something that wasn't, I guess, fully agreed upon or discussed. I don't know if the Prime Minister was just going off the cuff. I don't think she would, but apparently that was one of the major disagreements. The Brexiteers balked at that. All of them. It wasn't going to fly. So let's replay this.
Is little more than a repackaged version of her 3 times rejected deal. The rhetoric may have changed, but the deal has not. I thank the Prime Minister for her letter. It offers no change on a customs union, no change on single market alignment, and no dynamic alignment on environmental protections. This government is too weak, too divided to get this country out of the mess that they have created. For over 2 years, the Prime Minister bullishly refused to consult the public or Parliament. She did not seek a compromise until after she had missed her own deadline to leave. And by the time she finally did, she had lost the authority to deliver. That became evident during the 6 weeks of cross-party talks that ended last week. Talks that were entered into constructively on both sides to see if a compromise was possible. But, Mr. Speaker, while those talks are going on, Cabinet Minister after Cabinet Minister made statements undermining what their colleagues in the room were offering. The Foreign Secretary, Leader of the House, International Trade Secretary and Treasury Chief Secretary all made clear they would not tolerate a deal which included a customs union. While Tory leadership contender after Tory leadership contender took it in turns to make it absolutely clear that any compromise deal would not be honoured. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, no matter what the Prime Minister offers, it's clear no compromise would survive the upcoming Tory leadership contest. The multiple leaks reported from the Cabinet yesterday show the Prime Minister couldn't even get the compromise deal she wanted through her own Cabinet. And it's clear that the shrunken offer that emerged satisfied no one. Not her own backbenchers, not the DUP, and, Mr. Speaker, not the official opposition either. No Labour MP can vote for a deal on the promise of a Prime Minister who only has days left in her job. And even if the Prime Minister could honour her promises, the deal she is putting before us does not represent a genuine compromise. Her 10-point plan is riddled with contradiction and wishful thinking.
British politics is stinging. That is a brutal rebuke. That's a brutal rebuke. God, it hurts me to hear him say that, even though not so much, because I watched PMQs yesterday, and where is this? Where is it? I'm sorry. There we are. Because I watched PMQs yesterday, and I heard about kids not being able to go to school because the Prime Minister wasn't funding their schools. So her getting trounced in this way gives me a bit of joy. Now, that is brutal. She has lost the authority to essentially deliver. And this last point that the guy was complaining about, because he was like, look, fundamentally, Jeremy Corbyn is saying, we're not going to negotiate with you. Now, I've told you that for the last year, but Corbyn there's no impetus for him to negotiate at all. The only impetus is for him to seem like he is. There's a difference in those things. So, there was nothing that the Prime Minister was going to be able to give Corbyn. She could try her best to try to make this look like it's Labour and, it's both of us. It's not just one. Yeah, screw that. The public is not buying that. They may dislike Labour because they think he's fence-sitting, but he is fence-sitting. But you're going to get hit however you sit, if that makes sense. There are some positions that you're going to look bad regardless. You know what I mean? There are some positions where you just try to lower the negative, if that makes sense. Whether he chooses to stay or leave, he's going to lose elements of his own party. Why make that choice now? I understand that's annoying. That's a political stance, but that political stance has gotten him up to this point. That said, the French guy was like, that means he's not going to negotiate with her regardless. Problem is, he has a point. Any deal, even if Jeremy Corbyn told her, yes, sign us up, we're going to back this deal. Hell, we'll even set out an abstention, essentially not take the vote. But let's say he backs the deal. All the Brexiteers are leaving right off the bat. These guys consider this a fail or a betrayal of sorts. And Theresa May will get recalled. And not just recalled, she's losing her job. Like, she's going to be leaving soon. I don't care how hard Theresa May tries to cling to power in this case. She's losing her cabinet. She's lost. There was a point where, as Theresa May was speaking, her bench left. Like, it's hard to get across how toxic she is. There have been people who've been trying to get access to Theresa May for the last week. And she has been, no, not taking anybody. I'm not taking calls. I'm going home. She wasn't taking them. She didn't allow those people to visit her because those people were going to visit her to say, when are you leaving? Like, it's hard to get across how toxic she is. Will the next guy who takes the office of Prime Minister keep the deal that toxic Theresa initiated? Hell no. Any Labour leader that accepts that deal, is accepting that deal, knowing that the new guy, if that guy is Boris Johnson, is going to tear that deal up. She has no power to negotiate. She's lost her authority in this case. She has no ability to deliver Brexit, especially not the way she's trying to deliver it. So, right on Corbyn. Shout out to May for sticking it out, I guess. I mean, the stick-to-itiveness, I guess, is a virtue in some respects. But they are not happy. The Telegraph wrote an entire opinion piece called The Telegraph's View. Do I have that up? And the Telegraph's view was May needs to leave. I shit you not. Like, this is a newspaper that wrote up an article, an editorial. She needs to go. When is she going to go? And the BBC, I'd imagine, showing this to some degree kind of gets across even the name May has lost her authority. BBC News. That's like, I'm like, this is amazing. This is extraordinary. The BBC is running. I mean, come on. Did they have to? May has lost her authority to deliver. That's the title of this video that the BBC is running with. Now, is that a subtweet? Or is that the BBC saying, yes, it's time for you to go. You've lost your moral authority. It doesn't look good, man. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. All right, I'm going to end this. I don't want to keep this long. I just thought this one was awesome. So that's kind of where I'm going with this.